installment of the Forgecast. You know, I just realized something. Forgecast sounds a lot like forecast. I just unintentionally made a pun. It's amazing. I feel like I should probably talk about casting. Not forecasting, casting. We're talking about materials like bronze because that's pretty much bronze and aluminum are the two things I've casted. And of the two, I've had a lot more success with aluminum because I only ever did one melt of aluminum. Not true. One of the melts I did with aluminum went horribly wrong. I sort of fixed it. Now I use it as scrap to throw into my bronze melts. But anyway, aluminum is finicky and I don't like it. Unless it's in bronze, at which point it's amazing. I'll just tell you, aluminum bronze is great. Anyway, back to casting though. Casting is a fun thing to do. It really is. But there are a few challenges that go with it. Well, there are a few challenges. For instance, you're heating up something that's like this until it becomes like that. So that's the first hurdle you have to jump over, is that, you know, you're trying to turn something that's very solid into something that's very liquid, and you have to jump a few thousand degrees to do that. But once you're able to do that, there are a few other challenges. For instance, actually finding something to pour that into. I've done plaster, I've done soup cans, done a few other things. I only did one thing of plaster though. Actually, interestingly enough, this is the one plaster mold I forgot to cast into. There's a lost styrofoam casting, because I don't have wax. So, that one's still pretty intact. But, yeah, there's that. I haven't done sand casting, but that's one that I might be interested in doing at some point, you know, if I ever get the patience for it. But my favorite is this graphite ingot mold. It's just so lovely. Like, you just pour it in. It's not like metal where you have to cut it open, like the soup cans where you gotta cut it open, because, you know, there's that little lip. And it's not like plaster where it's almost unusable afterward, and also that it has a propensity to leave pits and all that other stuff. Just isn't that great. One thing to be cognizant of, though, every time, except I guess with sand, I don't know. I don't know if it's really a thing with sand or not, but I know definitely with the solid molds and such, you have to be really careful. You gotta preheat your molds. Reason why is because water is actually a really dangerous thing. It can really mess up a casting, you know, it can get bubbles in it, but it can also explode. Water can cause an explosion, so that's one thing you've got to be cognizant of while you're working and while you're casting, is to make sure that your mold is at a proper heat, at which point water does not become an issue. That usually means it's got to be over 200 and something degrees for all that water to steam and boil off. That's pretty easy to get there, you know, if you've got something that's going at 1,000 degrees, you know, just stick it over for 5 minutes. That bad boy's going to probably get too hot. So, yeah, definitely preheat your molds, prevent a whole lot of bad stuff from happening. So, yeah. Guess now I should probably check out my phone, make sure it's not overheating. See how much of that I actually caught. I don't know how many of you are wondering about this fan, but it's been a pretty constant fixture in all of my videos. And, so the guy in the workshop just gave me a funny look. Anyway, it's a pretty constant fixture in my videos. It's usually the blue fan though. It makes frequent appearances. But this one, using this one right now mainly because this is a new forge. I kind of haven't tested it yet. Okay, good. I haven't really tested it yet, so I don't know how much heat it's putting out in that direction. From this direction, it's pretty bearable, but the reason why I'm wanting to keep an eye on that is because just take it off the torch for a minute, it's melted. So, yeah, that's the reason why I'm using this one, is because I'm not afraid of it breaking anymore, because it's pretty much already broken. But it's still the reason why I use a fan is because if I've got too much propane going in there, funny thing happens. It starts smelling propane gas. That means not all of it is burning. So I reach a certain point where the propane is burning all it can in the forge, and the oxygen level in there is not such that it actually burns anymore, because it requires oxygen to burn. So with this, I'm bringing more oxygen in, so if I bring more propane in, that means more of it can burn, and I can get a hotter temperature in there. Same sort of thing I do with my foundry whenever I have the leaf blower blowing into it. So yeah, that's one thing. But yeah, I have oxygen coming in. I don't think I'd actually be able to get these workpieces as hot as I could using the amounts of propane that I do if I didn't have that there. So that's been there ever since I started making rings. I used to do it with this, with the little forge. I used to stick a fan over on this side actually, that I have it blowing in to the same place where this would go in. Mainly because I just didn't like how, because like in the back it does have a hole for that, but I just don't like how it tends to, like, if you put a fan back here, it's gonna blow the air, it's gonna blow hot air out. So, and yeah, I realize that's kind of what's going on here, but I wanted to keep it so that it's, you know, that the hot air is still there, but like it ain't coming out in droves. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I don't know. Maybe I'm just kind of being stupid. Maybe it all just does that anyway. But yeah, with this one I've got a forge door on this side, so it's actually containing a lot of it. But you know, lacking an actual blower, I kind of have to use this as my primary method of getting air into the forge. I'm gonna try hammering on it again. Let's see if this goes well. Check to see if I'm overheating. I'd like to talk a minute about organizing your workspace, because this is, I already went over it a little bit in the first installment, but I'd like to sort of cover it again because it's kind of important. It looks nice and, you know, orderly up here, but over there is a complete mess. And, you know, in fairness, you know, things tend to get cluttered. This is a shared workspace, so, you know, things are going to happen. And I'll admit, I'm not very good at maintaining a clean workplace, but I do have a few standards. So I have my scrap all lined up down here. Oh yeah, I had a claymore that I'm working on. This is fun. Anyway, so I got all my scrap lined up down here. I have aluminum, stuff that I think may be zinc, one thing that's part lithium, random assortment of metals that I'm not entirely sure what they are, brass and bronze, and then copper. So yeah, I have that all sorted out. But yeah, I should probably toss this lead down here. Anyway, so I have all that sorted out, and on the other side, which is pretty much from here that way, I have my refractory materials and stuff that's in the process of making, stuff like this, except not completed. And I actually do have a lot of fire bricks down there. Probably have about 8 or 10 fire bricks down there. And I pull those out just, you know, for my meltdowns and such. This one I found most effective is using a lot of fire bricks and stuff that's actually designed for the things that I'm putting it through. So, proper organization is good. Let's see, what do I even have down here? Oh yeah! I have like refractory cement directly below. You know what? I'm going to try something. I'm going to experiment for a minute here. I'm going to try hammering on this end, on the horn. Let's hope it goes well. Woo! That's the color I like to see. today's installment, I will talk about something that is very near and dear to my heart. By that I mean my lungs. Yeah, I find that respiratory care is definitely something, and it has been a little bit of a hard lesson learned for me because I've done a lot of grinding here. So, yeah, respiratory protection definitely a must, especially if you're going to be working with the infamous ceramic wool, or if you're going to be melting bronze even, because bronze fumes and such, mainly the stuff that isn't copper, and maybe even the copper too. Those fumes can get in the air and that can hurt your lungs, can make you cough and sputter and stuff like that. And in the midst of this recording, by the way, this is during the pandemic, so now is definitely not the time to be coughing. But yeah, there's that you gotta worry about. And then, obviously, for ceramic wool is a carcinogen, so that is a bit of an issue as well. Don't want to get lung cancer. Before, I do a lot of grinding in here, a lot of work with the braces. When you're working with that stuff, it's usually some high-speed belt sanding and such, and with that, you get a lot of particles in the air. When you get a lot of particles in the air, those particles can get into your lungs really easily. So, yeah, those also tend to cause a lot of coughing and sputtering and all that stuff. I've had to deal with that a few times before. So yeah, I've been donning this handy dandy mask here that, if you see my Instagram, is my most common feature there. Yeah, definitely wear something between you and the rest of that dangerous world. Whenever you're doing grinding, working with kale wool, or working with bronze, just because it's really important to have good lungs. Yeah, I'd rather sound like this than not sound at all. So, yeah, definitely a good idea to wear a mask. So yeah, I think that about ends today's installment. So, thank you again for joining me, and I hope you all have a great day.